Nope, nope, nope. Mark McKay from Slapshot and Ian MacKaye from the Evens are not cousins. It's literally spelled and pronounced different. And also, who the hell says Ian MacKaye from the Evens? No, yeah, no, I know they're a good band, but no one's ever said that ever. It's Ian from Dischord or Minor Threat or Fugazi. Anyway, I gotta go. Yeah, don't call me with these stupid trivia things that you're trying to get me with. Okay, good. Thanks. Hi, welcome to Talk About the Passion. Tonight we're going to talk about Dischord Records, um, a record label we all love. Um, I'm just pulling up a thing here. I get a playlist. Um, I don't have any script. I did this recently with talking about 45 records, and but I have a gigantic stack of Discord stuff here, and I literally just have a list of them right here. I don't know why, because they're stacked in order here. And I just have a link to the Wikipedia Discord discography here on the screen. So yeah, let's. I recently went on Facebook and polled some friends on there about an impossible task, which was what are your top three Discord releases, and the responses were all over the place, and it's kind of like an impossible task. I mean, it's kind of a mean thing I did there because that's like trying to pick your top three Beatles songs. There's a lot of them, and there's a lot of great releases on the Discord label. So what I'm going to do here tonight, though, is talk about my top 10, and this is also an impossible task, and trying to pick 10 of these records, but I wanted to start with sort of the first ones, well, the very first one that I sort of got into, and I have an appropriate mug here as well, which is yeah, we have multiple drinks again, which is seems to be the way to go here. So anyway, let's start talking about Dischord Records. The first release I heard on Dischord Records, and the one that sort of introduced me to just the idea of DIY and indie labels, was through, again, my friend Peter Biebergall, who got me into a lot of, well, all this punk and hardcore, but it was the Flex Your Head compilation. And it wasn't this one. He had, yeah, this is an older one because it says postpaid for $6, and this is one I think that they released a few years ago, and it's one of these, yellow, and but the original one that he had was the one that looked like this, but it's white, um, and these are also newer ones. It's a a white vinyl copy, which I like any record on white vinyl, and then I think this is yellow because how many more yellow albums can you get? But anyway, so this record, when I first heard this, just the back cover, um, I loved this picture, the lyric sheet inside that had info on all the bands. It was much bigger than this in the original one, if I remember. I think it was a giant poster. But just seeing all these bands and these cool pictures of, like the teen idols, like in front of the wall, and just, the idea of like flex your head, and this was such like a new world to me, and all of this stuff. And the reason this one is number 10 is, is obviously, I mean, the whole thing is incredible, but it's, towards the end, it's not my favorite stuff at the end. I know it's kind of a sacrilege to say anything on this label might not be, as good as something else, which isn't what I'm trying to say here. But side one is heavy. Teen Idols, Untouchables, State of Alert, Minor Threat, Government Issue, and Youth Brigade. and you know, I drink milk, and was just like a fun record, and yeah, and this is the first time I heard Minor Threat stand up, and which is one of their best songs, and then the Wire cover 12XU, which at the time I didn't really know Wire. I was 14 when I heard this record. But this record is and then Void, Dehumanized, New Breed, Live for Now, Artificial Peace, who went on to go into Marginal Man, and that's the other thing on this record is you see all these band members on these, and these are guys that all went on to Iron Cross. These guys went on to like Gray Matter, SOA, Henry Rollins, obviously, Michael Hampton, uh, the Teen Idols, Nathan. See, I can't read this anymore. Jeff Nelson, obviously, and but this is a great compilation, and obviously, if you're watching this and you're a Dischord person or a hardcore person, you know about this record, so I don't have to tell you to go check this one out because yeah, you already know about it. Everyone knows. I need to figure out some sort of way to stack these ones that I'm going through because there's a lot of them here. I know I said there's only 10, but yeah, we're gonna do because then there's gonna be runner-ups, and obviously Dischord Records doesn't really have runner-ups because I mean after 10, that was the 11th one I'm gonna pick here. Just not gonna be a good record. But we're gonna go a little ahead, and this is number 9, and it's a Hot Bodygram by Soulside, one of my favorite bands. And this album was introduced to me around 1992 by one of my current, best friends, John. I had been sort of out of hardcore for a while, and going to see like hippie bands and indie rock bands and stuff like that. And him and I became friends, and we had the that Soulside Soon Come Happy compilation, which had the this and Trigger, I think, on there, and the Bass 103 single, and that and Shudder to Think, Funeral at the Movies, 10 Spot. But we're gonna get into that in a few minutes here as well. But this record was just, I loved that whole CD, but this stuff which was sort of the later stuff, is it's just weird. It's dancey. It's very I don't know. It's just got like a really big sound. God City, um, Clifton Wall, um, Bad Show, Love Supreme, and his lyrics on this are amazing. And yeah, I think this is my favorite release by Soulside, which I think that might be a shared opinion by a lot of people. But they have a lot of stuff, and all of it is amazing. So it's kind of hard to pick, a favorite Soulside release, but that's my favorite. And for purposes of this episode, that's what we're doing. So yeah, we're gonna go right into what we were just talking about, which was Shudder to Think, 10 Spot, and this is that's an original one, and this is one they reissued, I think, in 2017, and this is a perfect record, and that same thing, the compilation that had this record and Funeral at the Movies on it. This stuff, Funeral at the Movies came after this, but this was my favorite stuff because Heaven Here, especially if you saw them live, Heaven Here was like a heavy. They redid that later on that on the it was like a promo CD single, and they redid that song. It was like real heavy. But J Dust Eyes is on here. Rag, my favorite song by the band, About Three Dreams. And the thing that attracted me to this band was his lyrics. Because at the time I was coming off of listening to like a lot of Bob Dylan and just stuff that a lot of it I didn't really understand, but I liked just the way that the words were put together. And Craig Wedren certainly has a way with words in this. On the rain, summertime train, uh, corner of my eye. Like these are just amazing songs. And this is when he had hair. But yeah, this is a perfect record. And yeah, Tony told me, great record. Shudder to think. Yeah, recently on some of these episodes, I've been finding out I'm losing some of these records, or I'm missing them, or whatever. And this happened with the next one, which is number 7 on this list. And it's like hard getting to these, like saying like number 7 is this one, because there's all of these are great, so it's kind of weird to think this one would be that low. Is this Mike? Um, so number 7 is the Rites of Spring album, which I don't have a copy of here, which was just one of those game changer albums that came out in 1985, maybe. And that's the first time I hear Guy. And I never got to see that band live. I don't think they ever even come up here. I don't think so. But that record is, one of the most important records. That's one of the ones people say is one of sort of the first emo records. And I'm going to talk about that when we get to number 5 on here, actually. So, but I do agree that this record is really intense. The world is my fuse, um, and it just the music. Like this is one of those records I can't put on if I'm trying to relax. It's very, and you need to listen to sort of the whole record as one piece, and and it is. It's just at the end of it, you feel like your soul has just been like shit thrown up onto the floor, and it's that's what it sounds like that happened to them in the studio, which I think reading stuff about them and seeing interviews with them seems like that's sort of what happened uh, with them. And that makes sense. So here's another one that's like, why is this number 6? And like, how do you pick one record from this band? But I thought it was an easy thing because you know we're gonna talk about them for a little bit here. But that's the first Fugazi record, just called Fugazi. This is the first time you hear the bass line to Waiting Room, that their biggest song, to some people. But it's obviously impossible to pick a favorite Fugazi record, and we're going to talk about that when we get to the after we get to the top 10 here, because I have a few other ones here. But I feel like this one is like a perfect introduction to the band. It's just Guy. I don't think he was playing guitar at this point. He's just sort of singing. Um, but the lyrics on this were really great. Bulldog front. Just at the time, I was kind of the reason I got out of just going to hardcore shows was because of Bulldog front. Just the kind of dudes that were going to shows and just fighting and that kind of stuff was off-putting to me. And but Give Me the Cure, Suggestion, the last song in here, Glue Man. That's a fucking intense song, and produced by Ted Nicely. Well, I've been trying to get on the podcast for a little while. We talk here and there, and hopefully that'll happen at some point because he's made like so many amazing records, and this is one of them. Yeah, just 1988 Fugazi, one of the most important bands, and just this picture of them on the back, how young they look, is amazing to just see, what they ended up looking like towards the end of their career. But if you saw them this early on, I mean, if you saw them in any era, it was always a perfect show, and just like an intense time. And but early on, I think the first time I saw them was at the church or the gym in at Cambridge Art. Museum, or Cambridge School of Art, or whatever. Yeah, there's a video of that on YouTube somewhere. We'll look it up on the thing here. Um, so yeah, Fugazi, self-titled, number 5, number 6. I know that sounds weird. That's not like number 2, but that's not how we're doing things tonight. We're gonna get other stuff here. Number 5 for me though is this could be number fucking 1. Also, is Subject to Change by Faith. And this is the same copy I've had since look at that, since I was 15. Um, and just this was, when I was just talking about emo, and I love that this was says Dischord 11 instead of like 11. But this record, I have that blue one, and then I recently acquired this one. This is also an old pressing because it's $4 postpaid, but it's pink. And I got this on Discogs a while back for it was a little bit of money, but I never knew this existed. Now there's cat hair on it, so that's nice. But Subject to Change by Faith at the time, for me and my friend John Kelleher, who was the drummer in Shattered Silence, the band I was in with Al Quint, and we covered Limitations on this record when I was the singer. Um, I think that's online somewhere. I think we did it's a pretty straightforward version of it. Um, but this record was real important to me in him, I think, because this I don't know, his voice. It was very melodic. I love his lyrics, which I think were sort of the one of the first emo um, type lyrics in hardcore. Like the song "Subject to Change," "Aware," "Say No More." Um, it's not a lot of there's not a lot of political stuff. There's no sort of straight edge stuff on here. I don't think. Um, and this is another one where how far they came from what's going to come up in a second here, from what they did on the Faith Void split in such a short time is when you think of all the bands in the Dischord catalog, these guys progressed pretty quick. I think from the stuff they were doing on the Faith Void split, like I just said. And this record is sounds like this should have been like 4 years down the line, like their fourth record or something. Um, so they definitely like matured in this record. Um, my John and I, before we got in the band with Al Quint, we had a band called No Choice, which we named that song a minute. But obviously the next record on here is number 4, and that's this guy right here. This is also the same copy I've had since way back. It's and I love these Dischord, the hard cardboard ones. And there's nothing really to say about the Faith Void record that hasn't been said. And I don't try to be a troll or anything, but I tend to favor the Faith side. I think just because they became one of my favorite bands on the record, and Alec McKay's musical output from from here on out is flawless in my opinion. And they put this one on a while back, the purple one. But obviously, I'm not saying I don't like the Void side. I realize how important both of these, this one especially is. And, on most days it's Faith, but obviously the Void stuff is intense. And just, I saw them later on, the YWCA in Boston, and they were, a little bit of a different band at that point. But this record is, I think there's an argument to say this is, one of the more important like split records of all time. Obviously, um, you talk to anyone in the hardcore scene, of a certain age, this is one of their favorites with reason. So yeah. What do you think? What's your favorite side? Put it in the thing. We'll talk about it. We don't have to argue. I'm not trying to be a dick. So let's get on to number 3 for me. This thing, Embrace. Um, so this one comes out in 1980, also 85, 86. And I had heard, what song did they have? I Wish I think, was played on, I think, WERS, and I had it on a cassette. They played that and something from Dag Nasty Can I Say, which came out around the same time, I believe. And that was the first time I had heard Ian post a minor threat outside of the Egg Hunt 7-inch, and which we'll talk about that one at one point. And then when this record came out, I just this is a lot of people would put this at number their top favorite Dischord release. I think I know a few people, but this is another one like the Rites of Spring one, and it goes into that emo thing, which is essentially where it made sense. A lot of these bands weren't talking about just like I drink milk and that kind of stuff, and sneakers, and the even like the minor threat stuff seems almost immature compared to this stuff, which isn't true. The minor threat stuff is also brilliant and perfect. But Ian's lyrics on this are just at 16, when I first heard this record, so much of it was easy to relate to, and I think that was even as an adult, but and then some of the political stuff about guns and money and that kind of stuff shows up on here, which ends up showing up on the Fugazi stuff later on. But Dance of Days, opener, Give Me Back on here, Spoke, I love. And this is essentially him with Faith. Michael Hampton's on here, who's one of my favorite guitar players on Dischord Records. So yeah, we're getting up there. There's only 2 left here, guys. So number 2 for me, and I don't think this would be number 2 for a lot of people, because on the this is good. It's like lemon, honey, and hot. Well, it's not hot anymore because I made tea, and it's like bitter. Do you give a fuck? Probably not. Number 2, Scream, Still Screaming. This also, if the band that's going to be number 1, which you probably can figure that out at this point, didn't exist, this could easily be number 1 for me. And this is my copy I also had. It's got, it's taped together. There's tape on it. It's been water damaged. But yeah, I think this is one of the first pressings. But yeah, it's got the BXR. And so this record was another one around the time I heard Flex Your Head. I heard this record. And when you first hear this, and they do it on side 1 and side 2, is because side 1 opens with Came Without a Warning, which when that kicks in, and you just want to throw things out the fucking window. And then Bedlam is like, that's another one of those that it's just like a perfect, like this is another one of the, I think this is the first full-length LP that is released on Dischord Records, if I'm not mistaken. I think everything else before that was an EP or a 7-inch, and then the compilations. But then track 3, Solidarity, which follows that rule I talked about for a while, with the the third song being one of the the key songs, or was it the second song? I don't know. Solidarity though, what a perfect song. There's some trouble, immature lyrics on this record that nowadays might not fly with the people, but it's like these guys were essentially a rock band, but just like a high energy rock band that just fell into the hardcore scene. And Pete Stahl's vocals are just we'll talk about like some of these later ones. He's one of I think he's the best vocalist on Dischord Records. um I have two. I don't know, I think I have two of these first pressings, and then this I found this one a while back, and this is one of the it's an early pressing because it's one of those cardboard ones. But it's the dark, and this was owned by someone named Keith. So Keith, if you're out there and you want your copy back of this tough shit, that's not going to happen because I'm going to hold on to that one. And then this one came out, I don't know, probably a few years ago, and it's a white one because we like a white vinyl record. Um, and this band also is very important to me. Just I love their entire catalog, but this record is a very powerful record. Like every song on here is amazing. Um, and now in 2026, I've become good friends with Enoch Thompson, who Skeeter, which was his name he used to go by, but he doesn't like to go by that at this point. But we've become dear friends, and to the point where we end phone calls with "I love you, man." Like that kind of friendship. Um, so that's a weird thing to think about because you know you hear about meeting people whose music you may have just admired for so long. He might be let down, but he's become a good friend, and he's been there through a lot of stuff that I've gone through, that he's gone through, and my girlfriend's gone through. And he's a good dude. So I'm glad to call him a friend, and he just happens to play in one of my favorite bands of all time. And when I had him on the podcast a few years ago, one of the questions I had for him was, the song "Hygiene." I thought the bass line was taken from a James Brown song. Which one? No, I can't stand it. I can't remember, but it's if you listen to that song, check it out. You'll agree with me. Um, so what is going to be number one for my favorite Dischord record? It's going to be a album called "Out of Step" by Minor Threat, and we got a few of them here. This one is, I think this is an early pressing because also the picture on here. This is one that I love. It says "Made Possible" by Donzi and Tara. Um, and then this one, Brian Baker's picture is different. Am I actually holding this up to the fucking camera? I don't know. I can't see. It's a fucking camera. Well, it's a phone, but it's turned around. There's someone outside. So I have these, right? We'll talk about the actual album in a minute. I just want to show you that I have a couple of these. This isn't that. I think this is just like the newest one that you can get. Yeah, because it says Dischord.com. They didn't have .coms when we were growing up. We had to call you people on the phone, and they would tell you what was up. What's happening back there? So the other ones I have are these striped ones, which I got these sort of recently, but the red one, which I love, this was the one I had as a child. That's not the same one. And this dark blue one is pretty cool. This is a $3.50 one. I think that's pretty early pressing. These later ones, which are all just $7 with that green, that ugly sort of aqua stripe on there. Why do I have so many of these? Yeah, 350. So that's an early one. And then one of my favorite ones is this German one, because all the songs are written in German on the back. And just that color scheme is nice. But so this record, um, most people are just going to say the Minor Threat discography, which is fair. Um, this was also, after hearing Flex Your Head, I was introduced to this record. And let me get one where I can actually read the song titles, even though I know what the fucking song. Where am I screen here too? This record was another, like, if you even want to talk about being like an emo record, because this has a lot of songs about relationships with friends. Obviously, if you know the story of this record, there's a lot of stuff that's allegedly, between that was going on between Ian and Jeff. Um, when they do the song "Out of Step" on here, they change it from the one that was on the 7-inch that said, don't smoke, don't drink. On this one, he says, I don't smoke. I don't, because I think Jeff Nelson didn't want to have any part of that, which I guess makes sense if you don't want to sound like you're preaching or whatever. Um, but the 5-piece Minor Threat to me is it's a fucking monster. I mean, obviously the first two 7-inches, which we're going to talk about in a second here, are also untouchable. They're, like people say, just the Minor Threat discography, which makes sense. But I just wanted one of like the albums, just because of the importance of this was the first one I heard, and I loved the oh yeah, this is a newer white vinyl one. But I always loved the picture inside um, of them taken from Marla Feldman. This was, I think, at a roller rink in Chatsworth, California in 1980, whatever the hell. And this, picture, I always say, kind of tells a story. It just kind of looks like that's, they're all having fun there, but they don't look like they're gelling together. Um, and they didn't last much longer. But this, for some reason, the font that they use on this record was very, I think because it reminded me of a record I had as a kid, and I can't put my finger on what it was. But it had this same font. And when I just saw this lyric sheet for the first time and read through these lyrics along with the record, which, I don't need to do anymore. I know these fucking lyrics inside out. I could fucking do them backwards right now for you if you want. Not really. My brain is not. My cognitive stuff isn't as great right now, which you can probably tell by what's happening here with all this. Um, but Minor Threat, Out of Step, um, is number one for me. And, there's a reason why. It's a perfect record. And Brian's guitar playing on that. Is he playing guitar on that record? Was he playing bass at that point? No. Um, how come I don't know shit like that? Are you an idiot? But the next, so if we're going to then go back through like I said, there's no runner-ups on Dischord Records, obviously. There's just other shit on the label. And so let's talk about some of the other shit on that. But before we do, was this one. And this was the next Minor Threat release I heard. I didn't get those 7-inches because I came along around '84, and those were sort of already hard to get. But I got this, and I had this copy. I didn't have this. Isn't my copy I had. I had the red one, and this is another one. Man, maybe this should have been number one, and because just when you hear filler, when the guitar tone on this record just cuts into your fucking face, and Ian's vocals are so he's just like his voice is so I don't know, just original. And when you're that young, he I don't know. He sounded like a kid you would hang out with. But yeah, we have a bunch of these. These are like different. We got colors all over the friggin' place here. We're not fucking around with Minor Threat. We got this one. This was a nice one. This is an early one. $4. I didn't pay $4 for it. Did you? This yellow one. They got a gray one. I think it's a colored one, maybe. Who knows? Yeah, see? Smoke colored. And, if you have all these, when you have multiple ones, do you play them all? I don't do that. I know some people do that. We got these ones, these blue ones, and then one of these Japanese ones. And I don't want to hear it. Every song on this, but when you hear, there's a lot of fucking records here. Can I swear on here? I'm wearing a shirt where, well, I probably shouldn't want to have that on there. I might get banned if you see the bottom of this shirt. But Minor Threat, obviously, for me, for most people, the greatest hardcore band of all time. Maybe just one of the greatest bands of all time. Along with the Bad Brains. Um, so yeah, so for me, after after I hear this Minor Threat discography thing, um, this record comes out, and this was another like game changer for me because this had those bands um, that were on Flex Your Head, and these were their 7 inches that they put out that I never got. I got the SOA one, which we have right. Yeah, yeah, that right here. See, yeah, and this is a second pressing. Um, but yeah, these 4 7 inches, and at the time, my favorites were SOA and the Teen Idols. But as time has gone by, this Youth Brigade record is amazing. Like very underrated band on that label. I wish there was more stuff by them. I think there's some demos and stuff that were released, and this stuff and the stuff that's on Flex Your Head. But I would have loved to have had like a split with them, and like they would have been a great band to do a split with Void. I think because they had a real nasty guitar tone. So yeah, good record. And this is one that I don't know. Probably some new version of this. Yeah, I don't have. I did get this one at one point, which was yeah, it's a clear one. But yeah, this is another one where like if you want to have the Dischord catalog, from the start, this is what you get. And they released that 7 inch box set a few years ago, which I have and I've never opened because not because I'm gonna sell it, I just haven't fucking opened it yet. And then they released them all sort of singly, and I bought them. So yeah, but let's go back to Fugazi because on my when I posted that thing the other night, a dear friend of mine, Jeff Friedman, who's from Swampscott and now lives in Los Angeles, put this one up, Fugazi Red Medicine, and I immediately was like, yep. On most days, this is my favorite Fugazi record, and then we discussed a little DM conversation, and but this record, and I saw them around this time. Oops, um, it's just the way it starts with that noisy beginning, and then it goes in. Do you like me? Which to me almost just sounds like an unrest song. I think Fugazi, I hate this expression, low key, but low key were influenced by unrest, obviously, because there's a lot of stuff, especially around this period. Um, but this record, I was saying to Jeff that the this record is sequenced perfectly. I have when I listen to Fugazi, a lot of times I have a playlist. It's just all of their stuff, then I just put it on shuffle, and it works. But I think this record um, is one of the ones that they really, I think they definitely sequenced this and put a lot of thought into it. Because there's just that instrumental version, Bayou, and then the last song on there, the Long Distance Runner, which one of the shows I saw them play, they closed with that. It was just Fell Destroyed, um, Birthday Pony, Bed for the Scraping. I think, does this have Target on here? Yeah, Target. Was that great one about the marketing of what is it? 1,000 grudging young millionaires screaming at me. Yeah, that was just when they were saying a lot in this, but also when this record came out, because this was sort of the first full length, and those first two were considered EPs. Um, this is a more recent pressing of this record. Yeah, I didn't have all their records on vinyl for a long time, and so I recently went, and bought them all. And they did this blue one recently. But when this record came out, this was sort of when I was really getting into them, and for a long time, this was my favorite record because it's got so many, the song "Turnover." There's that great video of them um, playing that. Is that in front of the White House or outside? The song "Repeater," that like crazy vocal, he's singing through like a fucking megaphone or something. But then it's like one of their best songs, "Merchandise." But they were, at this point, you were like, "Wow, I'm excited to see where this fucking band goes." And of course, after this record, what was the next one after that? The one, "Steady Diet of Nothing," maybe, because that's also, yeah, we're pulling it up on the fucking thing. Don't worry about it. I can't think straight right now. Stuff happening in my body. Yeah, Steady Diet of Nothing. Which at the time, when this record came out, they played this place called, I don't remember the name of the arena, but it's in Fitchburg, Mass. There was a period in the '90s where they had a lot of shows in here. And it was a college hockey arena with the worst possible fucking sound you could imagine. And but Fugazi played there with a local band called Sam Black Church, was sort of a heavier, an amazing band that's like a sort of a local favorite. Um, and then Shudder to Think. And I remember when Fugazi came out, they said just put the house, or they just, I don't know if they had, yeah, I think they just, because the other two bands literally had like two like fucking lamps on each side of the thing. And when Fugazi came out, he said, just put the house lights on. And I think this was the show where they, and then opened with, and I wasn't on the floor, but they opened with the song "Reclamation," which is about women's rights, and it's sung from the viewpoint of a woman, and it's just a powerful song, and it's like it's a moving song, and I remember when that song kicks in, and Brendan and Joe Lally get into that groove, that bass line. It's watching the crowd look like the ocean, just this ocean of people, and that's a moment I'll never forget. And they had a lot of anytime you saw them was an amazing show, and then my other album that's probably one of my favorites on most days is this one right here. Have you ever heard this one? Um, they just recently, this is called "In on the Kill Taker" by the band Fugazi, the one we're talking about right now. And they recently just released the, obviously, if you're watching this, you know the story of all this fucking shit. But they recorded this with Steve Albini, and for a long time, you could only get like sort of okay sounding bootleg of it, and but they released it sort of officially recently, um, to buy as a digital download. I don't think they plan on releasing it as a hard copy. I would love that, but I don't think that's. It was for a charity that Steve Albini championed, with the Santa Claus Foundation or something like that. But this record, and that version is amazing, But I do love this version too, and this is another one like Red Medicine that I think is perfectly sequenced, and yeah, Fugazi. There's no real. Their whole catalog is perfect, um, and just like a great live band, and it's amazing to hear. If you read anything about Fugazi, like recently, they talk about anytime they're like all together, all in town, like in DC, just happen to be around, they'll like get together and like play music and that's it. It just, I don't know if they record it. It seems like something Ian would do, because he does like to archive stuff. So, or it could just be out into the ether, which is an amazing thing to think about. That, like, Fugazi, like 3 summers ago, was just played like 4 hours of music that just existed and then just disappeared, and no one's ever gonna know about it. Weird, man. But yeah, they never officially broke up, so maybe I don't even know where they would play at this point, if they could play a fucking field. Um, so another thing that happened, when that Embrace record came out, was the first Dag Nasty record, which, as I said, they played. I think it was "I've Heard" was the song that was played on the radio that I had on the tape, and Dave Smalley from Boston, DYS, actually, singing. He was singing more on the second DYS album. This doesn't sound like the second DYS album. Don't worry about it. But then Brian Baker, um, who this is, he already knew in Minor Threat what was going on with him, because he was progressing pretty fast. But when you get to this record, though, yikes. He is, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to use the word yikes. Sorry about that. I won't do that again. But his guitar playing in the songs on this um, are just, this is another one where, can be considered one of the, these early emo records. And, I think that is sort of what we all sort of referred to the stuff as. And then that sort of moved on to stuff like, the Get Up Kids and Promise Ring. And then, now it's whatever it is at this point. I don't really follow it at this point, but but this song had so many. I mean, this record had just so many songs that I related to in it. I was 16 years old, and they played at the Rat, and it was supposed to be with Embrace, and Embrace, broke up right after that. So I never got to see them, but I got to see this version of Dag Nasty, and it's weird at the time, because I didn't know, because I don't think they ever made it up to Boston, but the version with Sean Brown. So I didn't even really know that that was a thing, until way later on. And then this record came out, which I recently talked about on. I did an episode on here with my good friend Randy Larson, who's been on here a number of times now, and he's gonna be on here more. You'll see. We'll get you back on here, buddy. Um, but we did a whole episode on this record, and we sort of came to the conclusion that, or I did, or just like and I think, I think we both sort of came to this, was, I think they're not interchangeable records, but when I think of like Dag Nasty as a band, I can go between both of these, as they're, because they're both completely separate. They have such a separate vibe to them and feel to them, and that's what him and I were talking about, was like, It's so the sound, the guitar sound, and just the sound of the band on the first record compared to this is completely different. And this, like, nothing, like Randy was saying, like, there's no record on Dischord Records that sound other record that sounds like this. It's like very like warm, like it literally, like I always say, it literally sounds like this picture on here. And this of course is the one with the first record with Peter Kortner, who I'll go ahead and say he's my favorite singer in the band that they had. And this also has Doug Carrion, who played in the Descendants too, and he's great. And I love this record. And if you just go find that episode we did on this, and you can hear him and I talked about that record for a long time. Some other stuff that's came out on Discord. Gray Matter. Take It Back. Is this called Take It Back? This album? Is that really called Take It Back? I don't know. Look in the fucking thing. See, I can't read anymore. Yeah, it's called Take It Back, you dumb. But these guys were another one where, guys from Dante and then Jeff Turner. I love these guys. And Haggerty from Iron Cross. This doesn't sound like Iron Cross at all. Just another one of these. Like I wish I saw these guys. They almost sound like a more. I love that Right to Spring record, but I always thought that these guys sort of had that sound a little bit. Almost had like a more. It was easier to digest. Like I could listen to the Right to Spring. I really had to be in the mood for, but this record was like one of these just sort of. I won't say feel good record because that's stupid, but just like a record that would always, I could be in any mood and put this record on, and Shoots and Ladders, the song "Burn No Bridges," Head, and I think this is I think this is the album where, is it the song "Take It Back" where they go into "I Am the Walrus," um, which is perfect sense because they almost had like a Beatles vibe to them, and yeah, I fucking love Grey Matter, and yeah. How about this one? You think we're gonna not talk about this one? Um, the lurid traversal of Route 7. I was a latecomer to these guys, I'll admit that. There was a lot of this stuff that was happening on this label, and like Lungfish, which is what we're going to get into in a few minutes here. Yeah, in the 90s, there was so much of this stuff coming out, and I worked at a radio station at the college in Salem, Mass, WMWM, and a lot of this stuff sort of came through there, and we, play all of this stuff. But a lot of it at the time for me just sort of blended together. But as you know, the band Hoover and this record sticks out. And these guys were like, to me, almost sounded like almost on some of it like almost more like if Fugazi came from like a more like later era hardcore scene. I don't know how to explain it, but just I don't know, an amazing record. And this is one of these bands like I would be. I'm not going to even tell you when I got into this band. It wasn't like last year, but it was way later. But now I love this band, but especially this record. And the song Route 7 is, I don't know, it's a great record. So, in preparing for these episodes, um, a lot of times I'll have a playlist, and I have a playlist. It's just called Discord stuff, I think, on here, and it's literally just Discord stuff. It's 531 songs, 27 hours, and so I'll listen to that on shuffle in the car. And today I was listening to it, and I almost punched myself in the face because a song by the band Jawbox came up, and I realized they weren't even on my radar when I was like putting these lists together and like pulling these records out. So obviously the first record, which I have on CD somewhere, but I don't have it on record. And then Novelty, which I like a little better. This is a heavy ass album. Cut Off, um, and my favorite song, just maybe one of my top, like, could be a top 10 song by anyone ever, is Dreamless on this record. Jay Robbins, just one of our generation's amazing songwriters. I love all of his stuff from Jawbox to all the other bands he's had, Burning Airlines, Office of, what's that one? Office of Respect. I don't know. He's got a bunch of them. And, but this record is, this is my favorite record by them. I love the major label stuff that they did as well. They're another one of these bands that, like, well, yeah, I was gonna, yeah, Jawbox, all of their stuff, perfect. Remember these guys, Beefeater? This is a fun record. Um, this was another one. I wasn't really into them at the time, and I sort of gone into it later. Not, not, this isn't like a few years later. I just mean like in the 90s or whatever is when I was like, oh, this stuff was pretty good. And this was when it was like sort of okay to slap bass on these records. And, but these guys are very political, and, Dougie Bird, funk stuff. Yeah, I don't know, Beefeater. And I don't have much to say about them. They're another one, like, I like them enough. I don't, Reaganomics, so that's a good song. But I enjoy this record, and some of it's kind of minute many. Is that a word? Um, let's keep going here. I think I'm getting to the bottom of the pile here. The State of the Union compilation. This came out in 1989, and has Ignition, Anger Means, which is another one that John and I, we would listen to that what's it called, Complete Control or something. But there was a Ignition CD that had like their Dischord output on there. Scream of Era Dub on here. Soul Side, Name and Mind. Fugazi, one of their best songs, In Defense of Humans. And then we get, in alongside, and when John was introducing me to some of these, Dischord bands, it was also sort of the Dischord adjacent bands, like, most notably, Swizz and Kingface. And but Kingface shows up on here with the song Dirty Wings. And I fucking, both of those bands obviously are amazing bands. And maybe we'll do like an episode on Dischord adjacent. So they also had that Bouncing Babies compilation. I think the band Black Market Baby. I don't think they ever had any splits or anything on Dischord. And also one of my favorite Show to Think songs, "Let It Ring," is on here. And this was a proceeds for homeless people in Washington D.C. And I don't, Dischord Records is one of these. I think when they put this back out in 2024, 2025, it says proceeds from this record to benefit We Are Family DC. So I don't know if that's the original thing, but I imagine Dischord being Dischord, I bet that's where the money is going to for these copy for this record, that new version. It's getting late. I've been doing this for, I don't even know how long we've been doing this for. Another band I kind of got into way later was Lungfish, and three of my favorites. Talking Songs for Walking, Plays. What is this one? See, Pass and Stow. This one is loud and drony, and I don't know why I never got into this band. I don't know what it was about them that just, I literally never listened to them. And maybe 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago or something. They clicked with me, and they've since become one of my favorite bands. And another one of these, just bands where his lyrics, again, a lot of them are, stuff that is hard for me to understand. But I like the way he puts words together, and just I love their instrumentals. Um, they don't really have any bad records. And I think I have all of them now. I think there's maybe one that I don't have, but yeah, I've since just purchased all their stuff. What's your favorite Lungfish record? And these are, and then the other thing that bums me out about a lot of this stuff, um, but is also a positive, is I never got to see any of these bands live. Soulside I have, because they've been playing again, and they rule. Um, but I never got to see Lungfish, so yeah. Um, and then like I said, Scream was putting out a lot of. I like all their stuff, and Fumble, which was one of the Dave Grohl records. This was the record that this is another one. 1988. A lot of good stuff was happening in 1989. Not just here, but I'm excited. I've been doing these episodes on years of music, and I'm excited to get to 89 because there's a lot of good stuff in there. But this was the record that where there's just no doubt that Pete Stahl is the best vocalist, singer on, at least for my money, on Dischord Records. Um, and there's a song that David Grohl sings on here, "Gods Look Down," which is actually a pretty rad song. Um, but Sunmaker on here, and then there's the instrumental "Crack Man," which is just this heavy ass song. And some of this stuff reminds me of his band Wool, Pete's band that he did a few years after this. So, but Dischord Records, was let's before we do that, we get singles. Not about these guys. We talked about the SOA 7-inch. Obviously, that was going to make it into this little soiree that we're having here. And then, of course, when this came out, this was, recorded 12/14/83, and I don't think it came out till, what, 85 or something. And, this was awesome because it was like new to me, Minor Threat music being released as, while I was like a fan of them. I didn't think anything else was going to come up by these guys at this point. And, it's I did an episode on this record, actually. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. But I love the song "Salad Days." I think it's probably one of their best songs. This cover photo is iconic, and it's fucking Minor Threat. It's fucking Dischord Records, "Salad Days." What do you fucking want? And then the next time we hear Ian is on this little bad boy that they recorded when they were in England. Him and Jeff. And I could never read that at this point. Are they serious with that? Jesus. What are they doing? But yeah, both of these songs are awesome. Me and You, We All Fall Down. I actually bought this like a few months ago because I don't have a copy of this, and I love both of these songs, and I love that picture, which you probably know that I love that picture. Um, I don't have the Fugazi, that 3-song 7-inch, which has one of their best songs ever, which was "Break In." But I do have the this 7-inch, which has their other, for me, one of their best songs is "Furniture," and this is another one that like came out like way later, and this is another good addition to your collection. If you're trying to collect Fugazi and Dischord Records. Um, Soul Side Bass 103. This is a perfect 7-inch. These songs were on that compilation, and the bass line and bass is pretty iconic, and 103 is great. And again, like Bobby's lyrics are, I love his lyrics. Perfect 7 inch. Right to Spring, another, this isn't as into, this is a great record. Dischord number 22, recorded in 86 and released in 87, I think. And yeah, this was not as intense as the record. I think it was almost a little more laid back, but I love the song Hidden Wheel. That might be one of my favorite songs by them. Yeah, Right to Spring, what a band. And then also, we were talking about Jawbox. So, uh, Ones and Zeros, that's a fucking amazing song. Yeah, I wish he's been doing like tours where he does like Burning Airline songs, or, I think he throws some of these songs in there. But yeah, so Dischord Records. I don't know what I'm talking about here. I don't know how exciting this is going to be for people if you're watching this still. I'm all over the place. Having no script sometimes is might be a detriment, but we'll see. But Dischord Records is still, putting out good stuff. Um, they put out the new Scream record a few years ago in 24, I think. 20, yeah, 23. Um, and this has tons of great guests on here. Joe Lally's on here. Um, Dave Grohl's on here. Um, Ryan Baker shows up on here. Mark from Hammered Hulls. But this was such a the song DC Special. Um, and then Dead Cities. Yeah, this was I think this was a great comeback. And then, they've been playing shows again, and they fucking sound. I think they sound as good as they've always sounded. Sadly, Kent Stacks passed away, and but the drummers they've had have all been great. Um, and like we just said, Hammered Hulls. It's another like Alec McKay is in this band, and I went to see them in Providence a few years ago, and they had Joe Lally was playing bass with them, who's now permanently playing bass with them. But I bought this record off of Alec, who I'd never seen him perform in any band. I never saw Ignition, and they were amazing. And this album is so fucking great. And it was great to learn recently that as well as Brendan Canty continuing on bass on this. It's Mary Timony plays on this record, Helium, but she's apparently her schedule isn't allowing for this to happen as easy as it could. So Joe Lally, Brendan Canty has stepped in on bass, and he was great when I saw them. But apparently they're recording new music this summer, so that's pretty cool to hear. But this is an amazing record, and it's more proof that just Dischord, never stops putting out good music. Another like recent one is this Black Eyes record, which is this like sort of dancey, noisy. He almost like raps. The lyrics are just like weird, and it's just like a weird record. But if you play this record loud, and it's a fun record. There's 6 songs on it, and they just played in Providence like 2 days ago. But I'm not 100% on going to shows yet. Um, that's not true. I didn't go because the next night I was going to. I went to a show, but it was a smaller show. I don't know about like tight club shows. And standing up is kind of for long periods right now is kind of hard. So I went to a sit down show the other night. The Stickmen with Tony Levin from King Crimson. How you doing? And then also a few months ago, um, I went to see Shudder to Think at the Middle East in Cambridge, Mass. And at the show, there was a surprise new Shudder to Think 7 inch on Dischord Records, which was pretty cool. That I know there was they kept this really hush hush. And then during the show, they said, we're selling a new 7 inch over there. It's on Dischord Records. It's literally like Dischord number 201. Yeah, 201. So, because I think the box set is 200, maybe. But these are great songs, these two Shudder to Think songs. Um, that's it. Dischord Records. One of the most important labels out there. And the integrity of, Ian, and he's just one of those guys that everything you read about him is true. Um, there's nothing I don't, you never hear any bad press about him. And I think him and Jeff Nelson just built this amazing label from scratch. This SOA 7 inch. As the story of it, they take, they Xeroxed these things and then sat in a Dischord office and taped these. I don't think there was there a Dischord office at that time? They folded these all together by hand, and now they have obviously a giant distribute. Well, not like a giant, but you buy their stuff and it's packed professionally, and the packaging is amazing, and but yeah, they've put out so much essential music, and which was hard to like come up with like 10 records, but I think I made my point on why those 10 were my top 10. But yeah, I easily could have included Dag Nasty in there, um, or one of those Lungfish records, because I forgot Marginal Man Identity. That was another one I thought I owned, but I apparently don't. I think people are coming in here and stealing records from me. Is that what's happening? Anyway, that's the end of this. I apologize if I've been rambling too long. That's what I've been sort of doing on here lately. But I hope you enjoyed this otherwise, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.